At my husband's funeral, an incredible message was revealed. I am still alive, trust in no one. The funeral loomed over Sarah Johnson like a dark cloud, a relentless reminder of a world irrevocably shattered. As she stood before the sea of grieving faces in the church pews, the hollow condolences buzzed like wasps in her ears. We're here for you. If you need anything. Mark was a great man. They felt insipid and empty, a mockery of the love they professed. Her heart twisted painfully, the anticipation of the eulogies and hollow words strangling her with each breath. How could she reconcile their grief with the truth of her fractured life? Only moments away from the final farewell, she felt as if she were sinking deeper into a chasm of despair. When the eulogies began, Sarah's mind wandered. She thought about Mark, the ethical compass guiding everyone around him. But beneath those layers of honor, had a darker truth splintered their happy existence? The thought sliced through her. Betrayal coiled around her like a tightening noose. The years spent building a life, trusting one another. Could it have all been a facade? A battle raged within her, grief battling suspicion, love colliding with nascent distrust. Who had her husband really been? The service concluded, and Sarah felt an urge to escape. The polished surfaces of the room felt obstructive. She needed air, clarity. Excusing herself, she stumbled into Mark's office. Thoughts raced in her mind, disjointed and chaotic, while she rummaged through their life. Anything might anchor her to the reality she desperately longed to feel. Among dust-covered shelves and disheveled papers, her fingers brushed against a hidden box, stashed beneath layers of clothing. With an unsteady breath, she opened it. Her heart thudded dangerously as she clutched the envelopes, each one a small revelation, a letter penned in Mark's familiar script. But one stood out, its urgency palpable. I am still alive, trust in no one. A chill washed over her. What horror had he concealed? Each letter detailed a tangled web of corruption, an underbelly of betrayal stitched into the fabric of Maplewood's governance. This was a man she thought she knew completely, a man who had loved her fiercely while safeguarding her from shadows lurking beyond their doorstep. Panic rose as she realized that the truth she had always lived with no longer stood strong. Friends, neighbors, familiar faces, they now echoed with double meanings. Even the kindness shared felt like a veiled threat. Her mind spun as whispers of doubt crept into her consciousness. Who could she trust now? Before she could process the storm of emotions swirling within her, the door creaked open. A tall figure loomed in the darkened doorway, delivering an icy message: back off or face the consequences. Her gut twisted, ramping up her despair. Was the life she built with Mark rooted in lies? Did she dare confront those whom she once called friends? Fear grasped at her throat, cold and unforgiving. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her heart pounded with resolve. She would delve deeper, peel back the layers of deceit cloaking Mark's life. No longer just a grieving widow, she was becoming an avenger. Yet each revelation would only draw her closer to a darkness she'd never imagined and a reckoning within a community that might not forgive her probing. Dread mixed with an unsettling sense of purpose, relentless and unyielding. The truth was just out of reach, but she would uncover it. Would she unearth more than she could handle? Would the battle for justice consume her? Or was it her only escape from the suffocating weight of betrayal? The walls of Maplewood closed in. Secrets whispering as ghosts of abandonment guided her toward an uncertain fate. Seated in Mark's office, Sarah's hands trembled as they sifted through the letters. Each envelope she opened felt like a time capsule, revealing pieces of a life she had thought she knew but now questioned. The urgency in Mark's words echoed in her mind as if urging her to act. His voice had been silenced, yet in these letters, she found an echo of his presence, a gift laden with a burden only she could bear. She quickly surveyed the room again. Her heartbeats a confusing mix of trepidation and growing tenacity. Determination surged through her as she absorbed the implications of Mark's revelations. What if his assassination had a purpose beyond the simple ending of a life? What if he had entrusted her with the very tools to dismantle a system he had tried to expose? The thought ignited a flicker of hope within her, a call to arms against deceit. Yet it came laced with dread as she placed the last envelope back into the box. A thought struck her. She had no allies. The absence of trusted confidants became painfully pronounced. The silence around her felt oppressive, a reminder that her support system was painfully fractured. Who could she enlist in this mission of truth? She couldn't just wade into the murky waters of Maplewood's darkness alone. The confrontation with the looming figure from moments ago replayed in her mind like a haunting melody, a stark warning of the potential fallout from her inquiries. Should she return to her former friends, inquire about Mark's dealings? Or was that a veiled invitation for them to silence her? Each option danced like specters before her, whispering danger. Sarah took a step outside the office, breath hitching as she gazed through the window. Outside, the sun shone with an almost mocking brightness, a stark contrast to the storm pulsing within her. It felt like the world continued on business as usual while she teetered at the edge of desolation and fury. But there was strength in that anger. It was the first step in her transformation from passive widow to an active seeker of truth. With newfound resolve, she flipped open her phone and began to scroll through her contacts. Familiar names flashed before her, each one tinged with fear. Were they allies or enemies? The prospect of reaching out made her pulse race, but retreating was no longer an option. Deep down, she could feel the stirrings of courage building within, and she didn't want to squander it. After what felt like an eternity of deliberation, she pressed call and lifted the phone to her ear. "Emily, it's Sarah. I think I need your help." The line crackled to life, and she noticed a moment of pause from the other end, followed by a cautious voice. "Is everything okay?" Not knowing whether to reveal the full extent of her situation, Sarah hesitated. "I need to meet. It's about Mark. And the funeral." As she spoke, her breathing steadied. A plan was forming. The surface of her life may have been shattered, but with each connection she made, she could weave a new narrative, one that would confront the lies and retell the truth. A rush of adrenaline surged through her as Emily agreed to meet. Sarah hung up the phone, ready to confront her fears and step further into the shadows. The battle for truth was underway. A war fought not just against the community but against the remnants of her own fear, and this moment, she glimpsed her own potential. No longer overshadowed by grief and betrayal, she felt invigorated by a purpose. The path forward loomed dangerous and uncertain, but she wouldn't allow it to dim her resolve. Would the darkness consume her, or would it illuminate the truth she sought? As she prepared for her meeting with Emily, a thought flashed ominously through her mind. If Mark had hidden secrets from her, who else had secrets hidden? And were there others who might also want to stop her from uncovering the deeper truths? With the walls of Maplewood closing in tighter than before, Sarah felt the undeniable weight of her mission draw near, its intensity palpable. The moment of reckoning was approaching, and she would have to decide just how far she was willing to go. The cafe buzzed with the late afternoon crowd, the air thick with the scent of brewed coffee and baked goods. Sarah settled into a corner, her heart racing as she awaited Emily. The familiar clatter of mugs and chatter of conversations seemed entirely removed from the turmoil brewing inside her. With the letters still fresh in her memory, she contemplated their heavy implications, and the reality of facing Emily sent her spiraling. Would her friend comprehend the gravity of what she was about to reveal? Moments stretched into eternity before Emily burst through the door, her expression a blend of concern and curiosity. Unruly curls framed her face as she hurried across the room, settling into the chair opposite Sarah. "All right, spill," Emily urged, her voice a low murmur as she glanced around. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her truth press against her chest. "I found something about Mark. Something he wanted me to uncover." Emily's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about? Is it about the funeral arrangement? I thought everything was settled." "It's much more." Sarah hesitated, uncertainty twisting her stomach. "He didn't just die, Emily. He was murdered. I think he uncovered something dangerous, and now..." The tremor in her voice betrayed the fragile hold she had on her composure. "Now what?" Emily leaned in closer, her tone serious. "I have these letters," Sarah said, her hand instinctively clutching her phone, where she had taken photos of the contents. They're filled with information about a cover-up he was investigating. I believe it connects to powerful people in Maplewood. Emily blinked, absorbing the revelation. You think it was a conspiracy? But why would they target Mark? The project he was involved in went deeper than just a mundane venture, Sarah explained, her voice growing stronger with each word. He was onto something much more insidious, something that could threaten the status quo. If that's true, then his death was a warning. As Emily processed the information, Sarah couldn't shake the haunting realization that there might be more than just external threats. Her thoughts drifted to her own motivations. Was she driven by despair? Or could her pursuit of truth provide a validation for all her fears? All right, what do you need from me? Emily's words snapped Sarah back to the present. I need someone I can trust, Sarah admitted, vulnerability creeping into her posture. If I'm going to delve deeper, I can't do it alone. Of course, but how do we even begin to untangle this? Emily asked, her brow furrowed. Sarah leaned back in her chair, confidence twisting with trepidation. I want you to help me investigate Mark's contacts, the people he was close to before he was killed. They might know things we can't ignore. A flicker of apprehension crossed Emily's face, but it faded quickly, replaced by determination. I'm in. But we have to be careful. If this is as serious as you say, they might be watching us. And that's when Sarah felt a sense of purpose flooding back, pushing aside the anxiety that had threatened to consume her moments ago. Now she needed to strategize. They had to tread carefully in this dangerous dance of truth-seeking. I'll make a list of names, Sarah began, adrenaline surging through her as she felt the pieces starting to align. We'll figure out what they know, and then we'll decide our next step. But just as she began to identify the connections in her mind, an unsettling thought pierced through her resolve. If Mark's killers were truly powerful, what barriers lay ahead? Would they retaliate against her potentially intrusive inquiries, and was she truly ready to confront them? As the cafe's ambience blurred into white noise, Sarah glanced over at Emily, whose confident nod served as both reassurance and alarm. Together they would confront the lies, but together, they would also attract dangerous scrutiny without knowing just how close danger lurked. The walls had begun to close in around her once more, as the shadows of uncertainty resurfaced. Would she be able to protect herself and Emily from those guarding their secrets? Ready? Emily's question hung heavy in the air. Let us do this, Sarah replied, a fire igniting in her chest as the first steps toward unveiling the truth beckoned. But as they prepared to execute their plan, another uneasy notion settled in. Was she already in way over her head? The next morning the sun peeked through her bedroom blinds, casting faint stripes of light onto the floor. Sarah was awake before dawn, thoughts racing through her mind like a trapped animal. Every detail from the previous day replayed in her head: the unearthed letters, the haunting implications of Mark's death, and the promise she made to Emily. She had always thought of herself as strong, resilient even, but now she questioned whether that was enough. As she lay in bed, she recognized she was standing at a crossroads. For too long she had been passive, letting life carry her along. Now the stakes had shifted. With newfound clarity, she felt a surge of determination push her out of bed. The cozy familiarity of her room felt stifling. This wasn't merely about solving Mark's murder anymore. It was about reclaiming her agency, taking hold of the reins in a life that had spiraled out of control. By mid-morning, Sarah had assembled a plan. With Emily's help, they would come up with a list of Mark's acquaintances, contacting those who might have insight into the darker corners of his last project. Each name felt like a key, a potential gateway into a labyrinth of secrets. As she scrolled through her contacts, an unfamiliar name stood out: Alec, a colleague Mark mentioned occasionally, someone who seemed to play a role behind the scenes. Sarah's heart raced. If anyone could shed light on Mark's investigations, it would be Alec. But she hesitated, fear wrapping around her resolve. Could she trust him? Would her inquiries put her in jeopardy? Pushing away the uncertainty, she drafted a message, her fingers trembling slightly as she typed. Alec, I found something important related to Mark. I need to talk to you. The clock ticked loudly in the otherwise silent room as she sent the message. Each second stretched painfully long, and she paced, waiting for a response. The act of reaching out felt like a pebble dropped in a pond, sending ripples of anxiety throughout her. Finally, a reply buzzed on her phone. Meet me at the usual place. 3 p.m. The usual place. Sarah recognized it as a small library cafe that Mark often frequented, a cozy spot hiding in plain sight, where Mark had sometimes devised strategies for his project. It chilled her to think of the discussions that took place there, now tainted by the shadows of deception. After a quick shower and a determined breakfast, she arrived early, surveying the cafe with sharp, critical eyes. She searched for any sign of danger, a twitch in the corner of someone's mouth, an unexpected glare. The cafe felt like a testing ground, not just for her investigation, but for her very resolve. Could she manage the dual threats of her own budding courage and the specter of danger? When Alec finally appeared, he looked different than Sarah remembered, more haggard, eyes darting nervously. The air shifted as he joined her, tension palpable between them. Sarah, I've been thinking about Mark a lot lately. There's so much I want to tell you, but his voice trailed off, fear lurking in his eyes. But to Sarah, something else flickered behind his uncertainty, a sense of urgency. Something wasn't right. His hesitation ignited her instincts. Just tell me everything, she insisted, anchoring her tone to a fragile balance of demand and encouragement. He glanced around, scanning for any eavesdroppers. Underneath her fear buzzed a deeper need. She was on the precipice of a revelation, a critical moment in her journey to uncovering the truth. Then Alec leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Mark was onto something big. He told me he was in over his head, but I didn't believe him. There are people involved that are not just powerful, they're dangerous. Her pulse quickened. It wasn't merely an investigation anymore, it was survival. With that realization, she questioned everything herself, Alec, the choices she would make moving forward. As he continued speaking, Sarah felt the tug of responsibility anchor itself in her gut. Her journey toward truth was spiraling into something more perilous than she had anticipated. Would she be able to navigate this web of deception without losing her bearings, or worse, her life? With fresh determination, Sarah steadied her mind against the storm of thoughts and emotions swirling inside her. What do we do next? The answer loomed ahead like a dark storm cloud. Little did she know, the next choice she made would change everything, casting ripples far beyond her immediate understanding. Would she embrace the danger, or would it consume her whole? The cafe's ambient buzz faded as Sarah centered her focus on Alec. His expression, clouded with tension, pressed on her like a weight. She desperately sought clarity amid the chaos. Where do we even start? She asked, both her mind racing and her heart a steady drumbeat of anxiety. She needed to reclaim control, to channel her fear into purpose. Alec took a breath, his eyes still flicking nervously through the room before he lowered his voice. We need to dig into Mark's last project, find his files, those notes he kept. He had a backup, something he was really careful about. If we trace it, we might find valuable information. Every word he spoke felt like a step deeper into unknown territory. Sarah nodded, locked in. Right. But if it's so serious, why didn't he come to me? Why didn't he tell me what he was onto? Alec shifted in his seat, the apprehensive energy surrounding him palpable. You know how Mark was always trying to protect you. He thought you'd be safer not knowing. But clearly that backfired. With each passing moment, Sarah's resolve solidified. Mark's intent on keeping her in the dark felt more like betrayal than protection. She had to redefine her relationship with both her late husband's choices and this precarious initiative she now embraced. What do you need from me? She asked, the need to play an active role solidifying her identity in this new narrative. Alec hesitated, vulnerability hazed his gaze. Courage, he murmured. We're stepping into a danger that can't be fathomed. Mark didn't fear them. He feared for you. The revelation twisted inside her. What exactly did she fear more? The dark undertones of Mark's unrevealed world, or confronting the shadowy figures that lurked within it? A deeper instinct pushed through, a drive that whispered, you can't turn back now. You must face what's ahead. Let us find those backups. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. Do you know where to look? Yes, but accessing the drives will be tricky. There are security protocols. A lot has changed since you last saw his work environment. He might have been removed from files, and we don't know who took over his workspace. Intricate thoughts wove around her mind, each idea more elaborate than the last. What if we visit his office? I can present it as a routine check. Maybe I can access some of his logs for anything that stands out. Alec shook his head, the anxious energy leaping again. You won't be alone in this. I'll help you. Just remember. If anything feels off, we pull out. We can't take risks just yet. The silence around them thickened with unspoken outcomes and the gravity of their quest. Sarah understood the stakes. Swellings of determination replacing indecision. I trust you, Alec, she said, sealing their fragile alliance, fortified by the urgency of the unknown. Now that I've seen this side of the truth, I need to see it through to the end. As they mapped out a tentative plan for the next day, she felt like an architect, laying the groundwork for a fortress amid vulnerability. Each move was becoming gut-wrenching, but with courage budding, there was no room for doubt. In the ensuing chatter, one unsettling idea clawed at the edges of her consciousness: was she truly equipped for what lay beyond deciphering files? Or would her resolve become her greatest weakness? At last, they stood to leave. Just as they were parting, Alec's eyes took on a new intensity. Sarah, if we succeed, things will never be the same. Are you ready for that? Her heart thudded. I'm ready to find the truth, no matter the cost. In that moment, Sarah felt the first urge of commitment, an unseen force pulling her towards the tumultuous journey ahead. But as she walked away, a fresh disquiet bloomed within her. What if the truth was more dangerous than they could foresee? What if it shattered everything she held dear? Her gut twisted with anticipation as she took a step toward uncertainty. As the world around her blurred, one resounding thought echoed in her mind. The real danger had only just begun. The following morning the air felt thick, heavy with unspoken tension and determination. As Sarah approached the building that housed Mark's office, she felt an unusual mix of nostalgia and dread. The sleek modern facade was the kind of place that once inspired her. Now it was a stark reminder of her past, a world where she hadn't needed to question everything around her. Inside, Sarah's heart raced. This was a different realm from the cafe a day ago, where uncertainty lingered and all possibilities felt open. Here, within these walls, she would be forced to confront the remnants of Mark's life. Pieces of him she was only beginning to understand. Alec led the way, his demeanor more restrained than before, as if the stakes had multiplied overnight. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow on their uneasy alliance. Sarah's fingers brushed against the cool metal of a desk as they walked down the hall, her mind racing through potential scenarios. Would they find something conclusive? Or would they step into a web of deception from which there was no escape? They arrived at Mark's office, its door slightly ajar, revealing a scene frozen in time. The desk was cluttered with papers, a cup still half full of coffee, his favorite mug, emblazoned with an inspirational quote that once brought her comfort. Now the words felt hollow, mocking her. Are you sure about this? Alec's voice broke through her reverie, the concern palpable in his tone. I have to be, she replied firmly, her resolve sharpening in the face of doubt. Whatever's in here might explain everything. Entering, Sarah noted the security measures lingering around them, a fortress protecting whatever secrets it held like a carefully guarded treasure. The first hurdle was the computer. She took a deep breath, glancing at Alec, who stood watch at the door like an ever-vigilant soldier. Let us get to work, she said, her fingers poised over the keyboard. The screen flickered to life, its digital pulse mirroring her racing heart. Almost instinctively, she began typing in Mark's usual passwords, the ones she had known since he started working here, embedded in her mind like a second language. Come on, she urged silently, fingers flying across the keys. With each failed attempt, urgency pooled in her stomach. Then a familiar string of numbers unlocked the door to a trove of emails and documents, entries that unfurled like pieces of a dark puzzle. Alec moved closer, peering over her shoulder. What she found began as innocuous but swiftly spiraled into convoluted reports and unsettling correspondences. Her breath caught in her throat as horror bloomed within her. There were mentions of mysterious codes, obscure meetings, and cryptic warnings about those who might come after her. I didn't think it would dig this deep, she murmured, the realization crashing down like a wave. Mark, he was entangled in something dangerous. Keep looking, Alec urged, his voice barely above a whisper, yet loaded with intensity. Fear flickered in his eyes, something she hadn't noticed before. We can't stop now. She pressed on, scrolling through files, uncovering layers of treachery that taunted every belief she had about Mark. The once comforting memories of her husband morphed into shadows of deceit, breeding uncertainty about past conversations, past decisions. Just then, an email caught her attention, one marked urgent, with a timestamp from days before his death. Her heart sank as she opened it. The message was spelled out plainly, yet its implications sent a chill through her. Trust no one. They're watching. Get out while you can. What does it say? Alec asked, his voice taut with worry. Before she could respond, she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. Panic surged. She slammed the laptop shut, her pulse throbbing as the echoes of office life filled the impending silence. We need to leave now, she said, her instincts kicking into overdrive. The atmosphere shifted, an invisible weight bearing down on her shoulders. She scanned the room, gathering the fragmented pieces of Mark's truth into an exhilarating mix of urgency and fear as they slipped out of the office. A question gnawed at the back of Sarah's mind. Was the truth she sought worth the peril it invited? And what of the warnings? Trusting anyone now felt like a dangerous gamble. The moment they turned the corner, her phone buzzed violently. A message lit up the screen, a reminder. They're watching. The revelation unsettled her. Was it a threat? Or a lifeline? Breathless, her heart raced as they escaped into the corridor. Unbeknownst to them, shadows were following closely behind. With every step away from the office, Sarah realized the real challenge was yet to unfold. She was no longer just searching for answers. She was now a target. What lay ahead would demand everything she had, pushing her further into the depths of a world fraught with peril. Would she find the strength to confront her greatest fears? Or would the unyielding pursuit of truth consume her completely? The fluorescent lights above flickered as Sarah and Alec sprinted down the hallway, the sound of their pounding footsteps echoing ominously. Adrenaline surged through her veins, sharpening her senses and fueling a determination that had lain dormant for far too long. They reached the staircase, a straightforward escape route, yet she hesitated momentarily. The weight of the information they had uncovered pressed heavily on her mind. Mark's words haunted her. Trust no one. But why had he sent that message? As they burst out of the office building into the morning light, Sarah glimpsed the city stretched before her, an expanse filled with blur and noise. Each honk of a car seemed to mock her fragile state. Shoving the phone into her pocket, she tried to silence the fears gnawing at her resolve. Was it too late to turn back? Where now? Alec's voice was steady, yet the tension in his eyes mirrored the fear mounting in her chest. We can't go home. Not yet, Sarah replied, scanning their surroundings. We need to find somewhere safe, a place to regroup. Thought hit her. There was a small cafe near Mark's office, one they used to frequent. Its familiar cozy corners and warm pastries may offer them both a moment to think clearly, an oasis amid the storm. They headed there quickly, the escalating panic rattling her focus. Each passerby seemed like a potential threat, their glances cutting through the fear like knives. Once they settled at a table in the back, the cafe's inviting smell of coffee and freshly baked goods briefly lulled her nerves. Yet the warmth couldn't tea masked the bitter edge of uncertainty resounding in her mind. They had found undeniable proof of danger, but what now? Alec took a deep breath, breaking the silence. What do you think it all means? The emails, the warnings? Sarah rubbed her temples, striving to piece it all together. Mark was involved in something much bigger than I ever realized. I didn't know how deep he was in something dark. She felt the urge to cry, to let the weight of betrayal crush her. But an ember of determination ignited within her, not just to seek answers, but to understand who she was, pushed by the revelations that now defined her life. I don't want to run from this, she exclaimed, surprising herself with the ferocity of her conviction. I need to confront it. For Mark. For me. Alec leaned in, his expression serious. This isn't just a personal journey anymore. We're in dangerous waters. You're not the only one at risk. His words sank in deep, and Sarah felt the edge of fear sharpen into something steely. Was she ready to face the unknown? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. Yet with each heartbeat, her psyche began to toughen. Maybe it's time to tap into everything I've learned, she mused, recalling how Mark had often encouraged her to speak up and assert herself. Those lessons felt vital now, keys to unlocking her next moves. We need to track down whoever Mark warned about. He must have been gathering information for a reason. Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. You could be putting yourself in greater danger, Sarah. In that moment she leaned forward, meeting his gaze directly. Or I could find purpose in this mess. I won't shy away from my fears. I'll confront them, and I'll do it with or without you. His eyes searched hers, weighing her newfound resolve against lingering trepidation. The silence poured between them, a line drawn that she dared him to cross. All right, he finally said, the resignation in his tone sharpening her focus. Let us do this. Together. As they emerged into the bustling street, a plan began to form in Sarah's mind, merging instinct with her growing determination. She could feel her potential unfolding, the aftermath of her circumstances slowly revealing a path. Her fight for the truth, for Mark's legacy, was just beginning, yet as they headed toward the next lead, an unknown sensation prickled at the back of her mind, the sense that unseen eyes were watching their every move. The message from her phone echoed ominously, they're watching. Determined, but cautious, Sarah pushed forward, knowing that the trail ahead could lead them to answers or into a trap. She was willing to risk it. But the question lingered. Just how far could she go before confronting the depths of betrayal? What new truths awaited them, and would she find the answers she so desperately sought, or would they be met with the very people Mark had warned her about? The streets buzzed with life, but within Sarah, an uneasy stillness settled as she and Alec navigated through the crowd. The montage of hurried footsteps and scattered conversations faded into a dull roar. Unable to penetrate the fortress of concentration she had constructed around herself. It was like stepping into a new world, where uncertainty was eclipsed only by the urgency to uncover the truth. They turned a corner and approached a small alleyway that spiraled behind a cluster of crumbling buildings. This is it, Alex said, glancing down the narrow path shadowed by rusted fire escapes and weathered brick walls. Do you think anyone would come here? Sarah questioned, her instincts igniting a cautious wariness in her gut. It's worth a shot. This is where Mark met with some of those contacts he mentioned. If he left any breadcrumbs, they might be here. His tone was curt yet laced with a hint of hope, fueling her determination further. With each step further into the alley, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility add to the resolve she had begun to cultivate. The fact that Mark had trusted her enough to dig deeper started to resonate. It was now her turn to honor him. The silence of the alley contrasted starkly with the chaos outside, providing a rare moment for reflection. What had once been a life dominated by routine had shifted dramatically. As memories of mundane office reports flooded her mind, she found herself smiling how trivial the worries had seemed then, compared to the gravity of the mission ahead. This journey was reshaping her perspective, revealing layers of bravery she never knew resided within. Sarah, Alec's voice sliced through her thoughts, drawing her back to the present. What's our next move if we don't find anything? Then we create an opportunity. Her response was resolute, born of the burning desire to reclaim control over the chaos that surrounded her. We go public with what we've found and put pressure on whoever's behind this. The idea seemed audacious, perhaps bordering on reckless, but the fire within demanded action. What if they come after you? He cautioned, eyebrows furrowing in concern. In a world where everyone's a potential enemy, I have to become my own protector. I won't let fear dictate my choices anymore. The clarity in her voice surprised even her. Would she actually pursue this path regardless of the risks? A new resolve laid the foundation for her decision-making. Her fear transformed into a strategy to confront her dilemmas head-on. They exited the alley, not having unearthed any direct leads, but Sarah felt something shift inside herself. The experience had carved a deeper understanding, revealing how she could leverage her knowledge against the very threats she faced. As they continued to walk, her mind raced through every lesson Mark had shared, reflections on courage and resilience resonating like a mantra. Trust yourself, Sarah, she recalled him saying. Each encounter with the unknown would be a test of her capabilities, and she was determined to pass. Just then, the soft vibration of her phone broke her concentration. She glanced down to see an unread message from Mark's old phone. Her heart raced as she realized it was from a secure number. The message simply read, "Meet me tonight at the old station if you want the truth." A jolt surged through her, electrifying every fiber of her being. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, with imminent danger now practically tangible. She turned to Alec, catching the reflection of her shock in his eyes. This could be a trap, he warned, although his voice was layered with intrigue. What if he really is alive? Hope intertwined with doubt, as her heart swelled with conflicting emotions. The possibility had morphed into an urgent need for certainty, a craving for closure that ignited her spirit. We have no choice but to find out. Her conviction reverberated through her, igniting a fire she was not willing to extinguish. Yet as they prepared to leave, an unsettling sensation clung to the back of her mind like a shadow, whispering of the dangers yet to unfold. Who could they trust, really? Was this meeting the key to unraveling everything, or was it the very threat Mark had desperately warned her about? The taste of urgency lingered on her tongue, propelling them toward the unknown. Sarah squared her shoulders, resolved to face whatever awaited her, ready to embrace both the revelations and risks that lay ahead. But as they stepped into the veil of night, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a watchful presence drawing closer to her every decision. How far would she go to uncover the truth, and at what cost? The old train station loomed in the distance, its weathered facade cloaked in shadows that stretched across the cracked pavement like dark tendrils reaching out to grab the unwary. As Sarah approached, uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. Each step seemed to echo within her, reminding her of the stakes she faced, the risks she was willing to embrace. Alec walked slightly behind her, his concern palpable as they neared their destination. "What's our plan if this goes south?" he asked, a cautious note threading through his voice. "We'll adapt," Sarah replied, attempting to project confidence she wasn't sure she possessed. "If Mark is truly there, I will demand answers. We can't back down now." She felt the weight of the moment pressing on her chest. Entering the station, the air shifted, thick with tension and anticipation. Dust motes danced in the moonlight streaming through shattered windows, their chaotic movement mimicking the turmoil within her. This was more than a meeting. It was a reckoning, a pivotal moment that could alter the course of her life. "Stay close," Alec whispered, scanning their surroundings. Sarah could feel the electric charge of danger in the atmosphere, sharp and unnerving. The uncertainty crawled under her skin, but she pushed through it. She had come too far, learned too much to turn back. In the center of the station, a lone figure appeared, shrouded in shadows. The striking silhouette could easily be mistaken for a ghost from the past, the outlines of familiarity mingling with fear. Sarah's heart raced. She wanted to rush forward, but caution held her back. "Mark," she called tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure shifted, revealing sharp features etched with lines of conflict and survival. "Sarah," came the response, deeper than she remembered, threaded with both warmth and weariness. "You came." Each syllable felt like a torrent inside her, opening a floodgate of memories and emotions. But there was little time for sentimentality. She needed clarity, not nostalgia. "You're alive. Why did you send the message?" The question burst forth, propelled by a mixture of relief and frustration. "I didn't know who I could trust," he began, but Sarah cut him off. "Then why involve me? I risked everything. The truth is dangerous." "They're watching," Mark's voice faltered, his eyes darting around, filled with fear. "You need to understand this isn't just about me. They will come for you too." An immense weight settled on her shoulders. His warning only validated her lingering fears. Realization dawned: not only was she uncovering a conspiracy linked to Mark, but she had become an active participant in a game larger than herself. "What do you mean?" she pressed, unwilling to let him sink back into ambiguity. "Everything you uncover can cost you your life. I don't have much time." His urgency shifted her perspective. This was about survival now, not just answers. Determination surged within her as she studied his face, the desperation etched there, forcing her to confront her feelings of helplessness. Instinctively, she reached out, bridging the distance that words couldn't close. "Tell me how I can help you, what to do next." Suddenly, a creaking sound echoed through the station, breaking their moment. Sarah's instincts kicked in. She felt the presence of unseen eyes lingering in the shadows. They were not alone. "Alec, move!" she shouted, adrenaline flooding her veins. They surged toward the exit, eyes darting around, scanning for the threats lurking just out of sight. Mark's fear was infectious, igniting a primal fight-or-flight response. But as they approached the exit, Sarah felt an odd pull from within, a desire to confront the secrets head-on rather than flee from them. They could be cornered. Unprepared, but fleeing now would only prolong her fate. What's next? Alec asked, glancing over his shoulder. I need his information, she said, tears of frustration disguising her resolve. I can't let fear dictate my choices. With a mixture of defiance and trepidation, she turned back toward Mark, ready to face whatever must come next. But as she did, shadows shifted abruptly, transforming into rushing figures advancing toward them. Her heart raced, battling between the thrill of truth and the impending danger. Get ready, Mark shouted just before a loud crash rang out, shattering the fragile atmosphere of confrontation. They had walked straight into chaos. Would she risk everything to uncover the truth? Or would this moment seal her fate? Not just for herself, but for Mark and Alec as well? The storm was approaching, and deep down, Sarah knew she was now inextricably tied to the answers she sought and the danger they promised. The time for hesitation was over. With the threat closing in, Sarah felt a palpable shift within her. It was time to unveil the truth, no matter the cost. But as she prepared to confront her new reality, a chilling thought crossed her mind. Would she be willing to make sacrifices she never anticipated? The adrenaline coursing through Sarah was frenetic, almost electric, as she faced the unfolding chaos. Shadows converged with intent, and a primal instinct awakened within her. She would not let fear dictate her journey. Alec! Mark! We stay together! She shouted, a steadfastness threading through her voice and grounding her in the moment. With every second, the urgency of their situation escalated. The shadowy figures drew closer, their motives cloaked in obscurity. Yet Sarah understood one truth: there was no turning back. The journey she had embarked upon was no longer a quest for closure but a fight for survival, for clarity, and for the legacy she needed to honor. I need to know everything now, she demanded of Mark, asserting herself as the volatile conditions threatened to ensnare them all. His gaze met hers, the flicker of recognition illuminating the depths of his fear mixed with pride. Okay, but you have to be careful, he replied, the weight of responsibility shifting onto Sarah's shoulders. The information I have could expose everything, but it could also put you directly in their crosshairs. Give me what I need, she insisted, feeling the power of her words sharpen her resolve. This is bigger than just Mark. It's about truth, freedom, and my chance to reclaim my life. Mark hesitated momentarily, his gaze torn between paternal instinct and the harsh realities surrounding them. Suddenly, chaos erupted as one of the figures lunged toward them. The air crackled with tension, prompting instinctual reactions. Sarah darted to the side, adrenaline sharpening her reflexes as she swung her elbow into the intruder's midsection. It was a fraction of a moment, a decision that propelled her further into this daunting new reality. Run! Mark shouted, pushing Sarah and Alec toward the back exit as he took a defensive stance. The realization struck Sarah like a thunderbolt. She couldn't just rely on Mark to shelter her from the horrors unfolding. She had to become an active participant in the fight for her own truth and the truth about Mark's life and death. Breathing heavily, a sense of clarity washed over her. They had prepared for this confrontation, but now it was more than survival. It was about establishing her agency, reclaiming the narrative that had unraveled her life. As they dove into the shadows of the old station, she focused on Mark's previous warnings, piecing them together with her burgeoning intuition. Through here, Alec urged, leading them into a cramped maintenance corridor. The fear washing over her was now accompanied by the thrill of purpose, the steady drumbeat of survival filling the air between them. Every step forward felt like a conscious declaration of independence from grief and fear. They crouched into a small alcove just off the corridor, heartbeats echoing in silence punctuated by distant shouts and footsteps. Mark leaned closer, his urgency blending seamlessly with Sarah's determination. You must find the real exposure, a key piece of intel. I secured backup files on a private drive. It contains everything I couldn't risk exposing before. Where? How do I access them? She pressed. Focus on the old project files, he instructed. I was working on a report called Maplewood Integrity Initiative. It will lead you to everything. It's crucial you do it without drawing attention to yourself. I will, she promised, her resolve cementing into a cascade of action-oriented clarity. But first we need to escape this place. The moment stretched. Fear wavered against burgeoning courage. The path ahead was clouded, But as Sarah stepped into her emerging identity, she felt emboldened. Was this the potential Mark had always seen in her? No longer just the widow of a man lost to shadowed inquisition, now she was a seeker determined to confront whatever waited beyond the walls of uncertainty. Exiting the station undetected, a plan began to bloom in her mind. They slipped into the safety of night. Shadows cradled their movements now. Each heartbeat brought clarity and conviction as options coalesced into the resolve she needed. In the ensuing days, emergencies made her life a maelstrom of research and digging through the layers of deceit left behind by the past. Sarah navigated through tumult, connecting dots, each revelation spinning its web until finally, she uncovered the truth that illuminated everything. Within weeks, Sarah stood at the edge of connection, an unencumbered force ripe with opportunities. She crafted a dossier, detailing the depth of corruption laced through Maplewood, a map of conspiracy woven intricately through personal encounters and public dangers. Empowered by her triumphs, she presented her findings to local investigative journalists, igniting a public reckoning that sent shockwaves throughout the community, toppling influential figures and thrusting hidden truths into the glaring light. Her professional transformations blossomed. She became a beacon of inspiration, recognized not only for her veracity, but also for her bravery in uncovering systemic issues entwined in the shadows of familiarity. As she stood at the podium sharing her story, a sense of realization wrapped around her heart. The journey she embarked upon, rooted in tragedy, had forged a steel heart where uncertainty once lingered. She reveled in her achievements, a sense of invincibility that came only with trust in oneself. Sarah had dismantled the narratives imposed upon her, and in that light, confronted the past with the fierce blaze of truth she sought. The final shreds of doubt that cloaked her life fell away, replaced by a confidence that illuminated her journey toward wholeness and recovery. Today, she wasn't merely the widow consumed by despair. Today she emerged victorious, confident in her power to reshape her life and reclaim her identity, a woman who had finally learned to trust herself, confront her fears and soar beyond them. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your support fuels these incredible stories of overcoming.